All right, here is the teaser prologue for So Strange Times, Volume 1. It's funny sometimes how when you look back on things, you start to connect the dots on how life would turn out. How sometimes you can see the blueprint on where you'll end up. Other times you just fumble around and hope for the best. Interestingly enough, I didn't fumble, and I could never see the entire blueprint. Instead, I was slapped in the face with what would turn out to be some of the scariest, weirdest, funniest, and best times of my life. This is how I became an investigator of the strange and eerily beautiful world of the unknown and the unseen. My name is Lexington Irving Monroe Porter. Yes, I realize LIMP would be the acronym for my name. Something I know all too well thanks to a few school peers who have the humor of monkeys. Anyway, most people don't know my full name and they call me by my much preferred shortened name, Lex. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. I very much doubt you care about names. However, some names lead to unlocking great power. Perhaps one day I'll share that tale with you. But for now, you'll have to accept the first story of the first volume of what would eventually become So Strange Times. I remember this so well, and while yes, it is indeed cliched, a city boy moving to a new small town that is, I promise that's the only part about this that one could consider to be cliched. At least, I think this is the only part. You know what? It doesn't matter. So, like I was saying, I remember the summer sun shining down on the asphalt road from overhead. It was so hot you can literally see the heat rise from the ground. The air was dry as well. One could easily fall out from dehydration. Luckily for 14-year-old Lex, which is me, was in an air-conditioned SUV and supplied with thrift store beverages. My hair was dark brown and in a Caesar cut. Somehow I was taller than average for my age, and I had a light tan complexion, unlike Dad, who could be mistaken for a ghost. And I would always receive compliments on the color of my eyes. My eyes are a weird brown color. I suppose you can almost say they're amber, but really I don't know, nor do I care enough to find the proper color of them. I also had another feature that some noticed. A single freckle on my right nostril. Keen observers would notice that I'd scratch that freckle when I get anxious or fibbing about something. Lucky for me, Dad isn't that keen, so I can still get away with stuff. I'm also the only child, and that's a giant plus. It's also why I have so much space in the SUV. Speaking of which, the SUV I was in was a beauty of a car, both inside and out. She was dark blue, had a quiet 6-cylinder engine, and was something of a workhorse. I endearingly named the SUV Alice. Alice's interior was covered in tan cloth, no fancy leather was needed, and she had more than enough room for anyone to stretch out and relax, especially if you were going to be stuck in her for hours at a time, which at that point I was. Now, I have to point out that Alice was older. She was quickly approaching that 100,000-mile marker. But you know what? I didn't care. Unlike the younger and hipper vehicles that roam the streets, Alice actually has character. She has meaning and memories. I'm even proud to say that now the old girl has crossed the 250,000-mile marker and still going strong. The man at the helm of Alice is none other than my father, the one and only Mr. Benjamin Ulysses Ryan Porter. So, my dad isn't what you'd call ruggedly handsome, nor was he ever trying to be that. He's average in height, build, and probably in looks to most women. Sorry, Dad, but I have to call it like it is. Dad at this time was in his late 30s and his hair was starting to go gray. He tried to hide this fact by keeping it short. It didn't exactly work like how he would have hoped. Mostly because he was so pale white, it made the gray stick out more. Dad wore thick-framed glasses, had a weird affinity for slacks and sweater vests, and the most even-tempered person I have ever known. Seriously, you can smash a pumpkin on his head, pour vinegar in his coffee, honk at him in heavy traffic for an hour, or switch out his shaving cream for whipped cream. He won't flip his top at all. Trust me, I've tried. The most he will do is give a lecture in his overly calm and somewhat monotone voice. This guy has to be a saint, right? Truth be told, I got lucky having him as a father. He's always shown me love and understanding, even at times he thought I was bat-flipping insane. Now, as far as my mom, I have no idea. I have no memories of the woman. Dad never brings her up, and I don't want to bring up anything that might cause feelings to get hurt. At this point, I've accepted that she's gone, and I will probably never know why. Okay, so back to me, the 14-year-old relaxing in the backseat of Alice. I remember thinking how long of a drive this was. It wasn't too bad, though. I was playing a game on my phone with headphones on. It helped drown out that garbage rap music my dad loved listening to while he drove. He thought he was being young and hip. Instead, he looked like a dork. Sorry again, Dad. You'd think I'd be broken up over moving to a new area and leaving my friends behind, right? Well, you'd have thought wrong. I tended to avoid socializing with the people who could be considered my peers. Most of them were boring, dumb, fixated on the latest trends, or a combination of the three. I was a lone wolf, and I liked it that way. If you weren't unique in my eyes or brought something worthwhile to me, then why would I want to be around you? Little did I know the effect that way of thinking would have on my future relationships. Hours have passed, and the sun that was once so mighty and bright started to descend from the sky and set. The air became cooler, the day became darker, the roads became rougher, my butt fell asleep from the long hours of being in the car, and my back wasn't feeling too hot either. While Alice is a comfy ride, the human body can only last so long in the limited space she offered. However, as if it were a sign from the heavens themselves, I saw what I needed to see. Actually, my dad called to me as I was in a half-awake slumber and pointed out the sign. But I still prefer to think it was the heavens giving it to me. And yes, it was a literal sign. A sign that said, "Welcome to Crescent. We have arrived. My new town, my new home, and what would eventually be the place of my adventures."